So I had it a number of years ago. I was down on my back for about a month.
Sure.
I could only walk like bent over, totally bent over. And my sense was afterwards that it was a very psychological occurrence. So the reason for my back hurting. So I'm wondering if you have any gleanings on that factor, the factor that basically it's something that so my take on it is that this was something that I did at that time in my life because I couldn't change my circumstances. I wasn't able to actually get out of the situation that I was in, so I got myself into physical difficulty. So, yeah.
By the way, I had the same problem when my father passed away.
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Both of my sisters and me, all of us came down with sciatic at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm.
All totally out of it. We couldn't move.
I'm sure it goes very, very deep, right?
So, yeah.
A chiropractor told me that he sees three main stresses on the body: emotional, chemical, and physical. And there can be interactions between all of them. You know, if we are under emotional stress and tension, we are very likely to make movements that are clumsy and unwise, and we may stress out. So it can all be mixed up together. And I do, in my own case, discern, very private communications between God and me about things I have to think about at this age of my life. Because it's such a humiliating experience. I mean, all of a sudden you're bent double, and after all the years of mocking old people and, never wanting it, suddenly there you are, on its own.
Shalom, Rabbi. Forgive me for walking in at the end.
It's okay.
I go through that a lot. I knew it was going on. At least I had the
It's better
intent
than
to
walking
get
out in the
there.
middle.
True enough. I wanted to ask you something. I caught at the end the idea of focusing at this time of year, although I would imagine it's good for all times, Torah and praying. I wasn't sure why you connected that specifically with Kislev and Hanukkah. Maybe you can tell me in a minute. But what I did think of, which has nothing to do with why I came, it just occurred to me. Believe it or not, my birthday falls on the last night of Hanukkah. Now, I honestly don't know if that has any special significance for me, or if there is something I might think about that night that maybe you could impart to me.
May we know your name?
Chava.
Chava.
Is my Hebrew name. Chava.
Well, Rabbi Nachman teaches us that each and every moment in life, you have to take out from that moment all of the potential that is available precisely then, because every moment never has been and never will be again. And each moment has this divine power. And you see, through the Jewish year, there are certain times which are very crowded with festivals. You're very busy with the New Year and Yom Kippur and Sukkot and Lulav, and then there are periods when there are a couple of months with no great festivals. And those are the times when we really have to be working on the main two pillars of our lives, which are Torah and prayer. Now, we have that after Pesach, and we have that after Sukkot. After Pesach, we have the 49 days of the Omer count, which is a time of trying to internalize the teachings of the redemption of Pesach now into our daily life. 49 days, we are, as it were, practicing all of the things that we were liberated from Egypt to do. But likewise, after Sukkot, which is the other main festival of the year, there's this period between Sukkot and Hanukkah, which is a time for really working on that. I mean, it's work. It's prayer and Torah day after day. You do it, and even when you don't get a buzz out of it, you still have to keep doing it. And so I think that is the nakuda, the point of this point in time right now, is what I chose to speak about this aspect is that this is a time that is particularly propitious for this plowing of the field. As to Hanukkah, the 8th day of Hanukkah is so very special because it's the completion of the miracle, and if you count up the levels from the bottom, the 8th level is Bina, which is understanding, which is what Chava is all about. Chava is wisdom. Chava is, the deepest wisdom of existence.
I wanted to ask you, you were talking about, with Netzach and learning Halakha, I guess this might be a little bit off, but you mentioned about the Mishnah Torah. Why specifically is there a benefit, say, versus learning Shulchan Aruch, or perhaps Kitzur Shulchan Aruch? You suggested that Mishnah Torah might be the best way to go about learning that on a daily basis. I know sometimes perhaps our psak isn't like the Rambam. I just want why that's a good derech with that.
I can give my personal opinion. Yeah. I recommend people learn Rambam for two reasons. One, because I found that for me the study opened up all of the gates of Torah everywhere. And number two, because I have the authority of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. If it was just me, I would never dream of telling everybody to do it. But since the Rebbe said, I think the little I've been granted to see is part of the bracha that the Rebbe brought into the world. If you read the introduction of Rambam to the Mishnah Torah, which is fascinating reading, he traces the history of the oral Torah from Moses all the way down to the sealing of the Babylonian Talmud, 40 generations. And then he traces the period of the Geonim, and he says, and all we have now is wars and impossibility of communications between country and country, and the Torah is in danger of getting forgotten. And I, Moshe ben Maimon HaSfaradi, got up and girded my loins, and I decided to write down for you the whole oral Torah, so that all you'll need is the Tanakh and my book, and you'll have the whole Torah. Well, now, if anybody else did that, but when Rambam did it, Rambam had the golden language that every word of Rambam has behind it centuries of rabbinic discussion, and he has purified this into a perfectly understandable Hebrew sentence which expresses beautifully and simply the absolute pshat of each and every mitzvah. He comes to you like a Rebbe and says, let's start with Aleph Beis and Yesodot HaTorah, and then we'll go to the prayers and the tzitzis and the tefillin and Shabbos and Yom Tov, then we'll get to marriage, and we'll presume that you know nothing. I will never tell you anything that requires you to have already known something that I have not yet told you. I'll only ever tell you what I've built up to. And he takes you on this grand tour of the Torah. Most of the words of Rambam are actually the words of the Brises or the Mishnah or the Gemaras anyway. And he gives us a pure golden path in the Torah. And my personal proof of the greatness of Rambam is really Rambam's greatest opponent, Rabbi Avram ben David, the Raavad. Because as you know, the Raavad, who was a contemporary of Rambam, was so infuriated by Rambam that he wrote a whole series of criticisms on Rambam's laws, which are printed in Maimonides. And in the Mishnah Torah, the Hasagot of Raavad are printed on the page. And anywhere where he could find anything to quarrel with Rambam, he was such a kaptan, he would and he denigrates Rambam. He's got it all mixed up, ruach, air, vapor. Now, if you look at how many comments of Raavad there are actually on the Rambam, on average, in the really substantive chapters of Shabbos and Dinim Mamonos and Noshim and everything, you'll find maybe an average Rambam chapter of maybe 15, 20 halachas, maybe 3 hasagot of Raavad, each one of which is on a very minor detail of the actual halacha. Should we cross the I this way or dot the T this way? But when it comes to all of Rambam's main explanations of all of the commandments and all their details, there's not a single comment by Raavad, which means that all of those passed Raavad's scrutiny completely as being acceptable. And for that reason, where Maimonides defines a mitzvah, and you will not find through anywhere in the Mishnah Torah, there's no place where Raavad quarrels with the way Rambam defines the scope of a mitzvah and its branches. All of his hasagot are on such, and Chalila, they're not of no significance, but they are compared to the broader picture. When you learn Rambam, you can be assured that you get the broader picture of the whole Torah, Kol HaTorah Kulo. And for that reason, I mean, today we speak a lot in education about the need to have the broader picture. You know, if you only study Shulchan Aruch or Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, first of all, one of the problems with Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is you get so many little detailed rules without understanding what the reason for them is or what they fit into the picture. And I can't say that the Rambam is any more up to date than the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, because the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch was written in a time of people living on farms. They had to know what to do with their hens on Shabbos, what to do with their cows on Yom Tov. Can you milk a cow on Yom Tov on Shabbos, which most people today are not involved with. But if you're already going to go back in time, let's go back into the world of Rambam, which introduces to the whole world of the Chazal. You know, the way the Rambam says for the halacha, which is eternally valid, also illumines for us how they cultivated vines, how they cultivated fields, how they did marriage and divorce, and all these other things. So we are getting the perfect introduction to the world of Shas, the world of Gemara. And why I say the Rambam has opened up all the gates of Torah to me is because after going through Rambam several times, year by year, you automatically become acquainted with all of the different areas of the halacha, so that no matter where you open the Gemara, no matter on what Masechta you open Gemara, on what daf, you will instantly see what they're talking about, because you'll already have come across those brises in Rambam's code. And with Rambam's, architectural presentation of the Torah, you can see where each thing fits in the whole picture. When people sit in yeshiva and they learn a little shtickle of Gemara or a little shtickle of Shulchan Aruch, it's all completely out of context. They have no wider picture. They never read the whole Tanakh, so they have no idea where the psukim are coming from, and they don't know. I mean, if they knew the 6 orders of the Mishnah Beseder, they'd know how things fit together. But going there and talking in these details of property law and law of Kesubas and Gittin and so on, I don't know how people can do it. I couldn't.
Is there just last quick question? Is there anywhere in the Mishnah Torah, like Al Pi Rabbi Nachman, that should be avoided in the Mishnah Torah, or is the whole?
Some Breslovers do not study chapters 3 and 4 of Yisodei HaTorah. But everywhere else, the Rebbe, who, as you know, was very critical of Rambam's philosophical writing, he warned people never to open them.
It's difficult. I know he spoke highly of the Mishnah Torah, but it's hard when you hear the words that he talked about. It's hard. This is right. We're taking it right now.
But
it's hard to.
But the Rebbe said of Rambam's halacha, "Hifli la'asos, hifli la'asos." And the Rebbe also, Reb Nachman, told everybody to study Poskim. Well, what study of Poskim is it? If you don't study Rambam, there's nothing. Rambam is the beginning and end of every halachic discussion.
Right, yeah, okay.
Rambam wrote Guide to the Perplexed, correct?
That's the very work that we were just talking about, not to study. It was that's the same man.
You're saying not to open and
correct.
But what is readable?
Is the Mishnah Torah,
which
is
Rambam.
of Rambam, right?
Thank you.
Rambam and Maimonides is one and the same person.